So there we go. I'd like to start by thanking Lindy and the Clearance Jobs team for giving us a chance to chat with you today. And also thank you to the 18 people who decided to stick around for the final session of the day. You guys are the best. Feel free to take the front row. It's like your chance to really get up close and personal with two of the CSOs to watch. You've got 2 of the 9 Chief Security Officers to watch right here from Washington Exec. They just named. So congratulations. All right, that's right. Exactly. There you go. See, that's the energy that these guys bring. That's what I'm talking about. So you guys, you sounded like you were 500 people. That was awesome. More of that, definitely. All right. So to start, if you think about the amount of work that these 2 Chief Security Officers have, and they've got everything from executive protection to disaster accountability, to personnel vetting, to reciprocity, to program protection, to parking lot issues, to social media posts, and I'm touching on about 5% of the daily job. But if you think about all of the things that fall under their purview, you have a golden opportunity to learn from 2 of the top professionals in their field. So I'm really excited to have you guys here today. So thank you for joining us on this panel. The role of the Chief Security Officer has stayed the same in some respects, but with technology, artificial intelligence, quantum, post-quantum cryptography coming on the stage, your jobs have actually changed and expanded dramatically over the past couple of years. We are constantly reminded by our government partners that the threat from foreign adversaries has never been greater. So Charlie Phelan had made that same claim a few years back. It's been consistent that it's growing, it's a growing threat, and this is what you guys have to face. So to give a quick introduction, Christy Wilder, who is the Chief Security Officer at Peraton, leads the security for a company supporting some of the most sensitive missions and programs in the federal space. And she has to balance compliance with operational impacts every day. So Christy, welcome. Kirk is Chief Security Officer at Accenture Federal Services, and he oversees security for a very diverse portfolio of clients and missions, and helping shape how global enterprise approaches the cleared workforce protection and innovation. So Kirk, we're very, very happy to have you with us today. Christy, I'm going to start with you. As I mentioned, Peraton supports some of the most sensitive missions in the federal space. You have the unique kind of position of having worked in senior roles in both government and industry. What do you wish each side better understood about each other?
So can you hear me?
You have to turn that little guy up.
Yeah, you can hear me? You guys good? Okay. Wow, so that's a great question. I think as I think through that, one thing that having been government, and I would hear this when I was in government sometimes, government folks would sometimes say, they're just in it for the money, they're in it for the profit, they're trying to make as much money as they can. I mean, companies usually do want to make a profit, right? I mean, so that's not an inaccurate statement, but they're not in it just for the profit. Like all the people that I work for or with in the programs, they are passionate about the mission. They love the mission and they want to see it succeed, genuinely. I mean, I think within any population, you're going to have people, you're going to have some people that maybe don't bring the passion to the work, and I think we all see that no matter where we sit. But I think generally speaking, what I have seen are people that are truly passionate about the mission and they want to be successful. And then likewise, I would say I have heard in industry sometimes that government folks maybe, like only the industry people put in a full day, or, we're working hard and then they take the credit. And having been in the government, I have seen people work really long days, multiple days, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and they're super passionate as well. So I would just say, trying to see that, on each side of the fence, that we're passionate about the mission in different ways, I would say, yeah.
Yeah, that's a real nice thing about being able to work in this space is you can see that passion on industry and on the government side. And as they say, as many of the enlightened government leaders will say, government doesn't build anything, right? Industry is who builds the systems, the programs, the staff to perform. So that's a great insight. Thank you. Kirk, Accenture, a tiny little startup company, massive company with an extremely diverse portfolio, and you operate security at a huge scale across almost the entire federal client space. So what are the unique challenges that come up when you're trying to secure that very diverse portfolio of people and programs? And how can recruiters work with you and security better to support that diverse portfolio?
Yeah, good question. And but first, let me address that picture that is up there, Linda.
Wow.
That's like
not
like
accurate.
My high school graduation photo. So maybe next time we can do something.
Christy looks the same. I've achieved 3 more chins since then. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So, so the latter part of that question might be the easiest part, right? And it's so security and recruiting, from my optic experience, go hand in hand, right? You bring us the people to put in the pipeline, and our collective goal is to get them in those billable positions as quickly as possible for corporate success, right? That is first and foremost paramount for our program objectives. And so having a strong relationship with those recruiters, they're going to hear about the requirements long before we do in security, at least from my experience, right? Their relationships into the programs are just much more robust than what I've seen and experienced, right? So we rely on them to let us know as soon as possible, what the pipeline requirements are, at what level, and in support of what programs. And then the only other thing we ask is please bring us the most qualified candidates possible, because that ensures the greatest likelihood of success, right? Small task. So it's with recruiting, it's having those relationships with us, right? And getting us that information that we need to help them be successful so we can prepare our teams. And that feeds into the first part of that question. My second part of the answer is that we have to support all of those portfolios with the same set of resources, right? So we have to be uniquely skilled, and I'm looking at one of my employees right here, Heather. She's one of the best employees I have. I'll say that in front of this entire 18-person audience. But it's having the experience and skill and versatility within your workforce to be able to manage all the unique requirements for every agency, for every portfolio, for every clearance level, for every compliance obligation, organizations that you're reporting to. And every single one of those portfolios thinks that their contract and requirements is the most important one in the business. So it's a challenge, but you do it honestly with hard work, talented people. And to what Christy said, that's the government is operating under a misnomer that they think we only work an hour a day, because that's not true.
Excellent. Well, for both of you, kind of following up on that, because you started to get into, how your cultures work and how your companies support the mission. You are senior C-suite executives in major companies, and one of the things that, if you don't know, learning doesn't stop once you reach the C-suite. If you're in a small business, you're learning from other successful small businesses or mid-size companies. If you're in a mid-size, you're learning from other C-suite executives at larger businesses. So it's constant learning, at least from great leaders. What if you were sharing insights on how to build a successful security culture with peers at maybe smaller companies, or who want to achieve what you've achieved at your companies? What advice would you give your peers that might be looking to strengthen their culture, their security culture, and the way that security interacts with the rest of the C-suite at your companies? Over.
Okay, so I'll go. Probably the most single advice that I could give would be to build relationships and have conversations and ask for guidance. For me, I have worked in this space for a long time, but sometimes I want to better understand the perspective that other people bring in. So I think appreciating that perspective and trying to find common ground and not just assuming that your way is the right way because the NISPOM says you must do it that way. I find probably hits a wall sometimes, but the NISPOM says, not every function fully appreciates that, I'll just say. And so I think sometimes if your approach is to go in and ask somebody like, hey, I'm having this challenge. And a lot of times these people are more senior than me, right? And I'll go in and I actually did this recently where I went in and I said, I'm having this challenge and I need your guidance. I need for you to help me. Do you think I'm right on this, or am I overstepping my boundary, or like and then also like how can I more effectively communicate it to people who don't understand security, because I am having a challenge. And what I found is that kind of like took people back and didn't make them defensive, and it really helped, and we found common ground on that one. So I think building relationships and the approach that you take and communicating the challenge that you're having really goes a long way.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, it's easy to turn people off. It's really hard to turn those relationships back on, isn't it? Yeah, right.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The relationships are what make things happen. And the relationships are what establishes trust with you, with your C-suite. And when you have their trust, it's building the confidence in you and your program. And it gives you the opportunity to work with them on showing that security is more of a mission enabler, not a mission impediment, because sometimes that's, the perception that they have, or the experience of the people that they have worked with in the past. So just being able to engage with them more directly, let them know that you want to help them get to yes for delivery. You may not be able to take them down the path that they want to go, but you're going to get them to where they need to be successfully. And you can't do that without the relationships.
Yeah, that's great. You've both been CSOs or in senior security roles for quite a while. So I won't ask you over the past 20 years what's changed, but over the past 5. Yeah. I mean, I don't even recognize that guy, to be honest. That's amazing. I think that was your LinkedIn profile, though. We got to change that. Yes, right. In the last 5 years, so we'll just kind of bound it that way, how have you both seen the role of Chief Security Officer change? And Christy, you have a unique perspective, having been in government and seen that change happen in that time frame. Kirk, for you on the industry side, what's changed over the last 5 years?
I would say that there's a major shift between what used to be more of a focus of, and I'll use an old expression that Charlie, we used at the agency for years, of guards, gates, and guns, right? That's not security anymore. I mean, security is more, proactive risk awareness, risk analysis. And I use the term proactive intentionally because we have to be proactive this day and age. Otherwise, we're not securing anything anymore. You're being reactive, right? So I'm trying to think how I can say this more elegantly, but it's not just, hardened perimeters anymore. Now you've got hardened networks, right? And other vulnerabilities that exist in our capabilities, in our technologies, in our camera systems, things like that. Not to get too technical on everybody, but our camera systems open up a vulnerability to our networks. Our networks have to be CMMC compliant now. If you want to bid, if you don't know what that is, you need to find that out, right? But we have to be compliant to be able to bid on federal contracts, moving forward and stuff like that. And you have to be much more technically capable, knowledgeable, and protective, as opposed to just, what used to be more of, hard perimeters and guards.
Great insights. Yep.
Can I just add on to that really quickly? I wholeheartedly agree with what he just said. In addition to, I would say the lanes in the road are very, very fuzzy now. So historically, there were very clear lanes in the road. This neatly fits in security, this neatly fits in legal, this neatly fits in employee relations, and so on, CSOs, SCIO. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not having a conversation with probably every one of those people that I just mentioned, and we have nuances of security in every action that they do. So it's like we've got a bunch of tentacles out there that are crossing kind of the lanes in the road, so to speak. And we do have security concerns in what they do, and the recruitment processes, and then also the legal reviews and investigations. And we're helping inform those decisions in real time versus waiting for people to make decisions in a stovepipe and then they send it to us and then we just punch a button and make it happen. So I would say we're not reactive, and I'm not saying they used to be reactive. I'm just saying that I would say that security is really leaning in and trying to be more proactive with all of its other partner functions to make sure that we're informing the decisions versus waiting until they're made.
Yeah, I think some of the insights that you're bringing out remind me that security isn't just, you're not making your company more secure every day and just tightening it down and it's secure. The vulnerabilities that keep appearing through everything that comes into play, whether it's AI or cameras, new cameras in the network, create risks and vulnerabilities that you couldn't have imagined 5 years ago. So keeping up with the pace of those changes, whether they're cultural or technology or just new capabilities, has got to be an incredible challenge. So I think you really hit two of those, both of you hit those areas pretty well. Switching back to the industry and government relationship, which is critical, what's one area that each of you think industry and government need to work more closely together on to improve security outcomes? Because we're all looking for better security, and you have both had experiences on the industry and the government side. What do you think we need to do better together?
Yeah, go ahead.
For me, when I hear that question, the first thing that comes to mind is information sharing, and I'll take that to the degree of like continuous evaluation and continuous vetting. As I've seen cases come across, my desk, and where there's a clearance revocation. Well, for what reason? Why? What's the impact to us as a company, right? That person was serving on our contract. What was discovered? What do I need to be aware of as a CSO to protect that company, to preserve our brand, to ensure we continue to deliver on contract, right? And we're getting nothing. Unless you got an inside track, maybe I'll ask her. But that's a huge concern for me, right? I know if we have an internal issue with an employee that we identify through our relationships with legal, HR, others, we report it. We're the first ones to reach out to the agencies and report the concerns. We're getting nothing back. And it concerns me, especially from an insider threat perspective, right? And when it's our charter to protect the corporate assets, that we don't have that insight from the government. Trusted relationships, cleared individuals, and even in at our level, we're not provided insight into those decisions.
Yeah, that's a perennial problem, and for those of you that might not get how important that is to chief security officers and corporate security professionals, imagine if your alarm company at your house was seeing people coming into your house and not letting you know, even though you're reporting changes and things like that to your alarm company. I mean, that's like, it kind of boggles the mind that we can't get that kind of two-way communication. And just like the last panel was talking about, for suitability issues, employees reporting suitability issues to a government portal, it remains to be seen whether or not that information will flow to company security professionals. And that's a real challenge. When we don't get that information, it's hard to protect your companies and to be accountable to your C-suite when you don't know what's going on. It's a great point. Christy?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would just concur. And, we already have it, to your point, and I think I'm just probably echoing what you just said, is that we already have limited visibility into our cleared population as far as the information that maybe the government has. I would say industry, that places industry companies in a predicament when we have an employee that we know that there is an issue where it could cause potential harm to other people, and we share that with the government, and we see that individual go and get employed somewhere else, and then we are kind of like, what do we do? Now the onus is on us. Do we share that with the other company because we know that there is a potential threat there? So it really puts us in a hard place that we don't like being in when we would like to be able to share that. And I think technology could help. I know that obviously there's probably been discussion yesterday and then earlier today on the use of IT systems. And I think if we had those, more modern systems in place, that would help us solve this problem.
Yeah, it's ironic. Christy, Charlie, Amanda and I were having a conversation over lunch. It's ironic and disturbing that our adversaries can find out more information about our employees than we are allowed to hold and share between the government and industry. It's mind-boggling. Now, there are some very good reasons for that, people would say, like privacy, civil liberties. Those are, of course, core to who we are as a nation. But when China and Russia know more about our cleared workforce than we are allowed to know, that is a fundamental national security problem, and it's disturbing. Every one of us should be disturbed at that. So, great. You have been in chief security officer roles and senior security positions, not just where you are currently. You've been in other places in industry and in government. How has the role differed for you as you've been in different companies?
I'm happy to start. It's what I have seen, and I'll call it 2.5 companies because I was with one company and they were bought, and so I moved to another company before I came to Accenture. But it's the alignment of those roles that affects, I think, how effective you can be, and it varies at every company. There's no standardization as to the alignment of the CSO and the structure of the team and where each company puts their priority, whether it's on physical security or more on compliance, right? Your FSO, CSSO, CPSO roles. So I've seen that vary, and it's, but I can't apply a logic to it, and that's the difference.
Kirk, have you been in more people-centric companies throughout your industrial career?
Yeah, so I've been in industry, I don't know, I got to do the math here. Yeah, that's not my strong suit. 7 years. And for the first 4 years, it was more people, places.
I remember one of our earlier conversations when we first met, you talked about bringing metrics into play at the company you were at. Yeah. So that's something that, is that a consistent kind of thing that you've seen that you can bring to the table at different companies, like improving the way that you measure outcomes, as you mentioned?
Oh, 100%. While companies may approach it differently based on what their deliverables are, I approach it from what I bring to the company and how I sold myself to Accenture is I focus on 5 main things. First and foremost, I'm responsible for compliance. I'm responsible for risk. I'm responsible for performance of my team, value, making sure that that company is getting the invested value out of their resources and their team, and then certainly managing to my costs, right? Part of all of that, especially the performance, the value, and the cost, is metrics. And I looked over at Heather because I mean it's a big thing for me. My team hears about it all the time. They have monthly reports that are due to me. I provide feedback to them on how well they're doing. But those metrics constantly measure how we're doing as an organization. They provide me an opportunity and a platform to show leadership constantly how we're doing as a program. It allows me from a business and strategy perspective to evaluate how my resources are doing as far as workload, throughput, volume, right? All those things that I need to do to build a budget and or go back and ask for more resources to strengthen the team. So yeah, metrics are huge. Thanks for bringing that up.
Hey, I'm getting older, but I can remember a few things. That's good. Christy, how's the role changed for you?
So I would say, and I've had these conversations before. I've worked in companies that have been very centralized, and the government too. I mean, some of the government agencies, we had, as you know, very, very, very robust metrics and centralized, services. And I think what I would say is that when you're centralized, you have some centralized services, it does make it easier to be able to collect those metrics because you're typically using the same tools, you're using the same databases, the same IT. And then I've worked in companies very decentralized, where you're the CSO of kind of like multiple companies, and you have multiple teams that are supporting and embedded with the programs. And I've done a little bit of market research where I went out and I asked different CSOs like, hey, should I really centralize these teams? Because does that work better? And I think it depends on the company and what it is that you're actually doing for your customers. And so I think if you have a pretty diverse type of sets of things that you're doing for various different customers and different cultures, it does make sense to have some decentralization, what I would say embedded teams that understand what the mission is, that understand the nuance, because we all have different requirements from different customers, right? And so when you have these different requirements, it makes that centralized process tough, which then makes it tough for us to collect metrics. So I don't have the right answer. I would just say that you have to know the company a lot of times will drive what your model looks like.
Yeah. Culture, companies have cultures, different parts of companies have cultures. If you're working on a weapon system and you've got a production line, that can have a different culture than an IT help desk at an intel agency. What role does the organizational culture play in a company's security posture? And do you find that your security culture aligns with or collides with the overall company culture, either where you are or where you've been in the past, if it's easier to discuss previous companies?
I'll start. For me, it's a little bit of a dance where you're working with the various functions that might have different cultures. And again, it just really comes down to mutual respect and then hearing what another person's perspective. But absolutely, I think the culture does allow you, is either going to be a little bit more of a default to no unless somebody tells you yes, or do you lean in and try, have the conversations and then go back? So it kind of does help you with your posture and maybe empowers you to ask questions that you wouldn't otherwise ask. And so I think a supportive culture will allow you to pressure test I don't want to say boundaries, but make sure that you're not just continuing to operate in the box of assumptions that, oh, this is going to be no, and I should just do it the way always. I think it does empower you to have those conversations that evolves the process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, absolutely. I think security can sometimes be viewed as the one of the lead no organizations. Just like HR can sometimes be viewed as, with the recruiting community, a no organization. No, you can't say that. No, you can't approach them that way. So that's really good insight. Yeah. Kirk?
Yeah, and that dovetails into one of the things I was saying earlier about, delivering a program that is seen as an enabler and not an impediment, right? One of the things that I love about Accenture Federal is the fact that they've adopted a corporate mantra of security first, right? They want you to start there, right? Because if you're good there, then we're good through completion, through delivery, right? Now, I think the fact that we're a foci company affects that, because everybody understands that for compliance purposes, we have to address the foci issues first, right? And so that's really important, but that is constantly addressed at the corporate level. We have little security first banners on a lot of things, so it's visible too. So it's what I'm getting at is the marketing of a culture, or the marketing of that helps influence that culture for us.
That's a great point. And for those of you that don't know, foreign ownership and controlling influence, FOCI, is a massively different culture and ball game that you have to play, and it can be a real complicating factor.
It's one of those other little things that you talked about in the beginning that we have to address on a daily basis.
A minor part of the day, right? That's good. If you're talking to potential aspiring chief security officers, what would you tell them that they could do to best prepare for the role that you're in if they want to take your job one day?
Want me to go?
Sure.
Okay, tells me I can go first on that one. I think, Charlie, you started it off right by saying we never stop learning, right? And I'm telling you, just when you think you know everything about a particular topic, somebody will throw you a curveball and you're like, I've never thought about that before. And then making sure you're picking up the phone and having conversations with people, asking people what they know about the topic, reaching out. One of the best things that I would say we do, and you're in that group too, we have a lot of informal emails across many CSOs, and it's like non-attribution. None of us are going to throw each other under the bus, but we'll say, hey, does anybody know? And we'll throw that out, and then people start chiming in. And then if you don't want to be attributed that, we'll go back to the person and say, hey, here's my answer, but if you can compile the benchmark and then shoot it out. And so we each do that, and I think that keeps us informed about how each of us are modeled, and can better function and deal with some of the challenges. So form a network. I'll summarize.
Yeah, have to agree there. I mean, if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're wrong. Well, at least I am. I know that. And work on building that network and building your team to certainly cover your weaknesses. You have to be smart enough to recognize what you don't know, because if you don't, you will fail at the top, right? So making sure you have that network, you have those resources, and you build that team to help you. It's about success, and it's about the collective success. You have to remember, it's not just about your success. So it's about the corporate success.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm not a chief security officer, and I never have been. When I watch some of the conferences that Lindy's been at, and some of you have been at, where chief security officers get together, the information sharing and the kind of the camaraderie around, oh, you think you had it bad, you should see what happened to me last week, kind of thing. It's amazing. And I would say, as a founder and a CEO of a small business, all of the C-suite positions that I've seen operate the same way. If you're starting a company, you can talk to other people that started companies, and the best surprise about that is I would have thought that chief security officers would kind of have, like Kirk would have their secret sauce and hold it tight. Or a chief executive officer who founded a company would be like, I'm not going to share with you how I started. And it's exactly the opposite. It's this overwhelming desire to help somebody who's going through the same things that you went through in the school of hard knocks. So I think that camaraderie and that network and those relationships go a heck of a long way. And for those of you that aspire to move up the chain to maybe you're the head of recruiting, maybe you're the head of HR, maybe you're a aspiring chief security officer, know that when you get there, there is a whole different level and there is a whole different network of people, of executives and leaders to help you at different companies and different places. So that's a joy to discover. So, looking ahead, what do you see as the single biggest risk and the single biggest opportunity for cleared security leaders?
Go ahead.
He says, "Go ahead." Okay, so I'm gonna start. How about this? I'll start with the opportunity. I think the opportunity is, and it's scary for people. I think it's scary for security in general. Is introducing technology, because traditionally it's been a human type of business where people feel comfortable. It's like a warm blanket. I've been in this for a long time, and security people are like, oh, we love our interviews, and we love our, narrative, and we like for people to sit down and read it and think about it and then make decisions. So when we start talking about introducing technology, a lot of times there's just visceral reactions of like, oh my gosh, this is going to cause the human to go away. And absolutely not. It's not going to do that. It's just going to make us more informed, right? There's a lot of things that are going untapped today, data sources that we're not tapping into today. We're sitting on data that we can't pull together because it's disparate data sets. So I think there's a lot of low-hanging, but really easy stuff that we can do to introduce technology, and it just makes a better informed decision at the end. I'm going to need to think about the risk one at this point, so I'm going to shift to you on,
Sure.
on the other one.
Yeah, first off, I agree on opportunity 100%. When, Lindy first asked us to be on this and shot out, the questions and we kind of looked. I think that was my first reaction to that thought is the opportunity is AI, right? And what that can do for our business. When I look at being able to evaluate reports, assemble some analysis on what the trends are, where the risks are, what portfolios are having the most issues and concerns, right? What personnel security matters are we seeing and things like that? How can we use that data to help influence our program, improve our security education approaches, identify particular topics, things like that? Foci company. We're responsible for monitoring and mitigation of all of our network and any information that's shared from the federal side over to big Accenture. I do that with people right now, right? And we've got to be able to use technology and tools to help us do our job better and to bring that analysis to our programs that we can leverage in support of the program. So yeah, I think that you're Christy's spot on there.
I've got my wrist now. I don't want you to steal it though. All right, so
Super competitive.
I'm trying to get in there because you're going to throw it out there. We're like, now I have to think more. Being too risk averse, and what I mean, because we are some risk averse people, but I have seen that when security folks are so risk averse, all we're doing is we're buying down the risk and we're pushing it somewhere else, right? So other functions, other people are taking on that risk. We're not able to get the critical skill sets that we need, in, the butts in the chairs, doing the jobs that we need to do that are protecting the borders, the IT systems, the cyber, all the things that we talk about. So I would say that while we want to create a really good mousetrap, we don't really want it to be so cumbersome that we're not that it's at all the other pieces, the stages where we're pushing it out of security and we're pushing it to TA or recruiting or HR or the program managers, and we're just not staffed.
Yeah, it gets to the quote, and Charlie, I can't remember if it was you that talked about this. It's, we don't always hire the best, we hire the best that we can clear. So there's a, that's right. But when you think about it, if we're leaving truly the best on the table of the folks that could be create the new way of doing business or the new weapon system, we're not helping the nation. We have to find ways to get that talent into the programs. And that to your risk averse point, certainly on the government side, we see that over and over and over again. The risks, we're going to make the decision to protect national security, which I think everyone would support, but are you unwilling to accept good risk in that? That makes a lot of sense. And mitigate it, absolutely, yes, yep. Lindy, we'd like to open it up if anyone in the audience has questions, and to kind of set the stage for you. You've not just got two of the CSOs to watch, you've also got like the former Investigator of the Year here. So ask any questions about like the SF-86 or...
Oh. For me, right now, honestly, insider threats.
My answer.
I'm sorry, but honestly, it is the system, and a lot of times we see it. It's not that we don't know it; it's being able to communicate it to the right people at the right time to prevent bad things from happening, and that is very frustrating for me. And it's a lot of work, and the security teams are very passionate about it. But that is absolutely what keeps me up at night.
Yeah, I have to agree. And if you didn't hear me, I said she stole my answer. Central Federal following DOJ reductions, we're probably 13,500 people. And, when you're responsible for making sure that none of those people pose a risk to your performance, your brand, your reputation, your network, your facilities, or anybody else that is an employee, and then you have to do that with very limited information and access to information that could help you make those decisions. It keeps you up at night, and in a population set of just that size, you have all the issues. You have marital discord, you have physical threat, you have stalkers, you have all these things, and you don't want it to play out in your building and with your population in a scenario you can't control.
And I just want to add on, a lot of times the assumption is that it's your workforce, somebody inside your workforce. Most often not. It's not even your employees. It's the known risk of people who don't work for you, that you don't control, you don't have insight into. You're protecting your employees with very limited information about potential threats that aren't under your control.
And my keep me up at night is the unknown risks that artificial intelligence is going to inject into our companies. When the playing field is leveled, the dumb applicants that put things like the China Ministry of Security related university on their resume is getting cleaned up by artificial intelligence saying, remove any potential risks that the US government might see in my application or in my resume. And so I think we're only starting to see the beginnings of those type of threats. But it's, again, just just like all of our companies are seeing how you can use it for proposal development and policy writing and things like that, I think we're seeing the tip of the iceberg and the risk is below the waterline. So, great question.
Separate. So building on that with the insider threat, DPRK, so North Korea, is becoming extremely prevalent in being able to use soft targets, right? So getting people to submit resumes that look good, and like you said, with AI can clean this up, but are actually just getting placed into these companies to then exfiltrate information. Don't even need to be in the company for very long, right? All they have to do is get a few microbits of stuff and it can be gone. And building on that, all the Chinese need is building those sandcastles from grains of sand, right? How do you propose, and is there a way for us to start building on that insider threat with these soft targets? I know we're making huge progress in things with AI and being able to catch things there, but I think we've gotten pretty far away from learning and understanding the mental aspects and the soft targets that they're now targeting, and literally just putting people in those seats. And then that becomes the insider threat that can do way more damage than just the computer things that we can actually set up cages for.
I can start. Sure. So you bring up a significant issue that I think we're all facing right now, and is how to identify those potential threats, and or people with that background posing to be somebody else, right? Because that's what we're really facing right now, and trying to work across the board, not just with government, but across our discipline corporately, with HR, with our cybersecurity teams, and even with legal, to be able to take a different look at how we're evaluating candidates, how we're screening candidates, what technologies we're using to validate their credentials, how we're doing interviews. It's become a much bigger issue than previous. I don't know that we have the perfect answer yet, but I can tell you that resources have quadrupled in defense of that particular concern.
I would say what I have seen a lot of companies doing, and this doesn't fix the problem, but it does enable communications, because we each have really big jobs, right? So you've got the CSO, the CIO, HR, CSO, all these C-suite entities. We all have day jobs. We're all running fast. But I think to create review boards, and you can kind of call it what you want, but that really creates a venue for us to bring these issues from a technical perspective, from what is HR seeing. We're able to start picking up on some patterns of who is actually targeting us, obviously having the relationships with the local folks out there in the, whether if it's FBI or DCSA, getting information from that too. And then just trying to bake some tools in that's gonna do that. And again, I don't know that there's no single bullet. I wish there were, but a lot of it is just making sure that, hey, CISO's office is right down, CIO's office is right beside me. I was kind of nestled in between them, and a lot of times I'm like, what are you guys doing on this, and how are you handling that, and what can we do? And so it's really just about the conversation and the working together.
That's good. I'll add one more piece to that too, is just to counter what I said earlier about the government sharing information. This is one area where we have seen improvement in the government sharing information with identifiers that we've been able to leverage and help in this area.
Yeah, that's a great point. They have dramatically improved in that area. How many of you were working when Y2K hit? You better raise your hand. I know you were working on Y2K. You ain't that young. Come on. All right.
I have to think about it.
Oh boy. All right. That was the year 2000. Y2K. All right. So there's a new Y2K coming called Q Day. Have any of y'all heard of Q Day? That's quantum day, the day that quantum computers are able to break the pre-quantum cryptography. And so to your point that some of these, whether it's North Koreans or Chinese or any adversary, putting employees in place that are siphoning out bits of data, what our adversaries are doing are collecting that data in prep, some of which is encrypted, in prep for Q-Day, when they can automatically and in one fell swoop decrypt everything that we had in post or pre-quantum cryptography. So those are things that, even though it might only be a few pieces of data that they're pulling out, in aggregate, what our adversaries are going to see about us, our population, our workforce, our programs is scary as hell. So, great question. Thanks.
Hi, Charlie. Thank you so much for bringing that up. I'm Liz Nguyen, FSO at Test Consultants, and we're trying to stay at the forefront of PQR, which is post-quantum resilience. And to your point, we're trying to get our clients on the not just DoD side, but Fed Civ side to stay at the forefront of this. And we just can't, similar to what Kirk said earlier, we just can't get the message out. I don't know why it's so slow for our government to be on board to stay at the forefront of this, because it just takes, like you said, Q-Day, and we're in trouble. Yeah.
It's a great point. And I think part of the problem is quantum is such a nebulous thing, right? I think to some degree, the threat is overhyped in a sense of it could be here tomorrow. Well, it's probably not going to be here tomorrow, but somewhere, if you track where folks say quantum computing won't just exist, because it exists today, but when will it be fully functional and able to eliminate some of those cryptographic safeguards? It could be anywhere from 10 years, 20 years, and that window keeps changing. So I think from a government perspective, it's hard to invest in something that you see could be 10 years, 20 years, or 5 years away. I think the other thing is, a lot of people don't understand that quantum technology is on the shelf today. So you can buy quantum photonic devices that are random number generators or reservoir computers or things like that today. And if you don't think that our adversaries are already implementing that technology in their networks and attempting defeat of that kind of quantum physics-based stuff, you're crazy. But it's a great point. I think the most effective way that I've seen clients kind of have an aha moment is when you say, were you using AI 4 years ago? No, most agencies weren't using any form of AI 4 years ago. And it's pervasive today. If your company isn't offering an AI solution or using AI today, you're behind. And that quickly, a life-changing and business-changing technology has transformed government and industry. Quantum will be that on steroids. So I think you're absolutely right. It's hard to convince some of our clients, particularly in Fed Civ, that that's a emerging threat. But I think the Q-Day description and then using AI as the warning sign of look how quickly this can come online and completely change your operations might be one way to address it. What do you guys see?
My concern is that in 5 years, is Charlie Phelan going to be wearing those pants that Lindy's wearing today?
Yes, definitely. I can see that.
I can't follow that.
That's right.
Charlie, honestly, it's so big of an area of concern. Honestly, I don't know how to wrap my head around it. Honestly, I mean that's just a straight, blunt answer.
That's what we have to have, though, are those blunt answers of we don't know. And I think it's incumbent on companies, providers of quantum technology to give you some actual, this is why you should be concerned, and these are the use cases, beyond the Q-Day kind of hysteria that will start to come out. There are actual use cases that all of our companies are going to face, and I think we need to do a better job of highlighting some of those things. Like, for example, if you use Microsoft Authenticator or Google Authenticator today, your networks are vulnerable on Q-Day and nothing is secure. So get prepared now. We use the term quantum enabled. So we want companies and government to become quantum enabled over the span of the next 5 to 10 years. So I like the term that you used as well. That's a good one.
Christy, we got some homework to do.
I know, right? Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for sticking in there with us. We appreciate you coming and hearing from, again, 2 of the CSOs to watch. And having worked with them both, I can tell you, you really do need to watch them for a lot of reasons. But professional advice is top and first among them. So thank you all. Thanks.